Good day, everyone. Buongiorno. A warm thank you to the ICOS Organizing Committee for this opportunity to present our research. My name is Coach Emil Arroyo from the National Academy of Sports, and my co-author is Assistant Professor Julia Pearl Arroyo from the University of the Philippines. This paper is entitled Examining the Sport Education Structural Coupling, a case study of a top talent sports school. The recent Olympic Games have been historic to the Filipino people, as we saw Ms. Hidilyn Diaz win our first Olympic gold medal in weightlifting at Tokyo, and Mr. Carlos Yulo win two more golds in artistic gymnastics at Paris. But as the fervor subsides and a new four-year Olympic cycle begins, leading to LA in 2028, we look at the strategies that could build on this momentum and provide us with a new generation of worthy athletes. In this regard, we find a growing worldwide interest in the development of top talent sports schools, also known in some countries as youth Olympic pathway schools or dual career development environments. These farm systems and incubators for gifted youth are special settings where school-age athletes can engage in and pursue intensified sport training while ensuring their academic needs are met. A few examples shown here are the IMG Academy in the United States, INSEP in France, Westfield Sports School in Australia, the Verbund System in Germany, and the Aspire Academy of Doha, Qatar. Since their rise during the turn of the century, top talent sports schools have delivered varying degrees of sporting success while providing a holistic environment to raise healthy, capable, and resilient young student athletes. The purpose of this study is to examine how the sport education structural coupling is operationalized in a top talent sports school of a developing country. Specifically, it seeks to uncover conditions, constraints, and dynamics surrounding the combination of intensified sport training with academic schooling through observable variables. This addresses evidence and methodological gaps in research on the sport education structural coupling, applying Niklas Luhmann's modern systems theory. As defined by Borgreff and Kache in 2012, structural coupling refers to a linkage of two self-referential systems that interact to stimulate opportunities for mutual benefits. Examples of these may be found in the coupling of sports with tourism in events like the Tour de France, and in the coupling of sports with mass media in the very example of American National Basketball Association, as well as for sports with education in an institution like the Rafa Nadal Academy. The sport education structural coupling is a paradoxical pairing, as the demands of the two systems tend to pull in opposing directions. The code of sports, after all, is to fulfill one's ultimate athletic potential, to seek ever improving performances achieved through intense training and competition, while that of education is to provide a holistic program of study leading to outcomes that prepare a person for life in society. To make the abstract structural coupling concept empirically observable, Niklas Luhmann prescribed three operational variables: the temporal, the social, and the factual dimensions. These variables cascade into the specific indicators we seek. First, in schedule management. Second, in organizing staff patterns and perceived competencies. And third, in the integration of core programs of sport and education. These form the research questions for our investigation. This is a convergent mixed methods case study of a top talent sports school. As you can see, the selection process for the case school was based on inclusion criteria posited to provide the most appropriate setting to study the sport and education structural coupling. Illustrated on the right is the paper's conceptual framework. For data collection, purposive sampling was used to recruit 6 subjects for structured interviews, triangulated among core service administrators, frontline staff, and senior high school student athletes. Interviews were conducted by a trained third-party interviewer to reduce influence and bias. 51 frontline staff were surveyed with an adopted Gold in Education and Elite Sport, or GEES questionnaire, to profile dual career service providers' competencies. Thematic analysis was applied to information generated from the interviews, while statistical analysis appraised quantitative data. The results were then synthesized. The thematic analysis of the interviews followed Clark and Braun's 2006 framework. For research question number 1 in the temporal dimension, daily school schedules were found to be controlled by national regulatory guidelines favoring academics contact time. Different sports training schedules were tested with varying results. Activities requiring asynchronous class options were helpful, especially during multi-day sports camps or competitions, revealing the need for a hybrid, more flexible learning environment for this specialized school. The ideal schedule for sports training should be sports-specific and based on best fit. Periodization applied to both sports and academics can help student athletes manage fluctuating priorities and enhance recovery time. Identifying as a student athlete or as an athlete student does not have to be absolute, but can follow priorities from the integrated sports and academics calendar. In the social dimension, evidence indicated that current staff creatively managed workloads despite insufficient permanent positions filled. Absorptive and carrying capacities would be breached with new students admitted unless additional positions were created through required government protocols. There was a high regard for the competence of core service providers, that is, teachers and coaches, as well as student-athlete support services, including guidance counselors, physiotherapists, school nurses, nutritionists, and dormitory managers. The diverse student-athlete support services gave rise to a third co-equal core department in this case school. There was a mindset for growth and for continuous improvement through professional development and via quality personnel acquisitions using a gap-analyzed hiring program. For research question number 3 in the factual dimension, there is a nascent integration of sport with academics programs in anticipation of a special sports integrated curriculum mandated by the law creating this case school. Further integration was seen across a third notable program of equal importance to the case school, that of student-athlete support services. Thus, a triangulated community of practice or communitaire among 3 core frontline service groups appeared as the key area of communication, interaction, and interconnection in the structural coupling. The Golden Education and Elite Sport instrument, adopted from the European Union's Erasmus project, was used to profile 51 dual career service providers in 33 competencies, using a 5-point Likert scale as shown in the slide. The average means was a score of 4.26 with an average standard deviation of 0.76, showing strong possession of all the competencies among the frontline staff. The GEES instrument grouped the various competencies by 6 competency factors that included reflection and self-management, advocacy and cooperation, organization, empowering student athletes, awareness of student athletes' environment, and building relationships with student athletes. The GEES competency possession scores were tabulated along perceived importance of each competency item. This revealed perceived importance of competency scores to be consistently higher than possession, pointing to how valuable these competency factors were and that there was always room for personal and professional development. A paired t-test of mean differences showed observed differences were not likely due to chance alone, while Cohen's d for mean differences by standard deviations indicated only a small magnitude of the effect size in differences between them. Synthesis of the thematic analyses led to the development of a sport education structural coupling model, with the competency profiles of frontline service staff reinforcing the declarations in the interviews. This is corroborated by the results showing strong possession of all competency items and competency factors of the GEES instrument. The model graphically illustrates the interplay of not just 2, but 3 core programs: academics, sports, and student support services. The time-sharing, community of practice, and program integrations of this triumvirate point to effective outcomes as observed in this case study. Along the Olympic movement, here are some insights gleaned from this study. For the temporal dimension, at the secondary school level, time allocated for sport training and competition outcomes should not overwhelm time for holistic youth personal development that allows for enjoyment of sport and education, normal physical growth, biological maturation, and behavioral development. In the social dimension, The dual demands imposed on the youth in such a specialized environment compels core service providers to maintain inclusive, sustainable, and enjoyable participation in sport to go with the curriculum vitae. Lastly, for the factual dimension, while a key reason for being of a top talent sports school is to produce champions in sport, the equal commitment to synergize programs to develop healthy, capable, and resilient young student athletes cannot be overemphasized in the spirit of Olympic sport culture. In summary, this study examined the sport education structural coupling through the lens of the modern systems theory of Niklas Luhmann. The variables forwarded by Luhmann's theory created the jump-off point for detailed observation of the structural coupling construct through the case study of a top talent sports school in a developing country. Mixed methods and triangulation provided rigor to the data gathering, extracting insights from purposely selected stakeholders of the school in the temporal, social, and the factual dimensions. To conclude, this study exposed the sport education structural coupling as a tenuous yet promising combination, one that could trigger both disruptions and collaborations in the temporal, social, and factual dimensions in a top talent sports schools. When the community of practice among school core service providers synergizes and commutes these interactions into stimuli for consistent reciprocal benefits, then the sport education structural coupling could be balanced, effective, and sustainable. The general principles of the International Olympic Committee's Recommendations for Youth Athletic Development 2015 provides awareness and education in implementing dual demand sport education structural couplings for youth to ensure enjoyable, safe, healthy, and sustainable experiences, a great resource for Youth Olympic Pathway schools. Thank you. Maraming salamat po.